was doing her best, all because she wanted me to be happy.
You know, when I talk about anime being one of my favorite forms of media right there next to video games, a lot of people think that you're kind of crazy for that take. And for me, I put anime above movies. I put anime above, regular TV or regular TV shows or sitcoms, anything like that. It's just a very personal thing to me of just the time period that I was lucky to grow up with, right when the anime scene was entering America with Dragon Ball and, Sailor Moon and Voltron and things of that nature that we kind of got, very, very, very early on in its infancy. And right when I got started into that like middle school era for me, into like the late 90s, it's right when, Toonami kind of hit the mainstream in like 99, right? And like that's like when everything began to take off. And thankfully, like, through that all the way through high school, I was able to download a lot of stuff, in Napster and LimeWire. And it's just been one of those constants in my life since I can remember in anime. And the beautiful thing about anime is My Happy Marriage embodies what I think is beautiful about anime. And it's the complexities of these interwoven stories that they're able to tell. And as I'm watching My Happy Marriage, it's this beautiful show that makes you sad and mad and angry and sad again and hopeful and empathetic and all these things, right? Like in this episode, we had Miyo, who was blaming herself for where she's at and all the things that have happened to her, and the things that she couldn't say to Kudo that she finally wants to say, and the beautiful writing that's just we're getting to witness, right? And it's an amalgamation of everything. It's beautiful writing and fantastic directing, and a studio that they're whoever the artist that they hired hit the nail on the head, making this really beautifully rendered show. And they do Sakuga really well with Kudo fighting. And they're able to have deep, enriching dialogue and really good actors, voice actors who are able to convey emotion and make you feel, that sadness and that, like on the verge of tears and sometimes on, crying, like literally tearing. And that's done two ways in this specific show, because we're getting the unique opportunity to get this simul-dubbed, right? We're able to get the amazing acting from Japan that, they're nailing it. And for those who want to, endeavor foreign lands into the dub space, we have these English actors who again, are really doing a great job at adapting and conveying that same type of emotion. And they're just doing a really great job from top to bottom. And, it's one of those things to where, like, you remember these types of shows in the long run of, when you're thinking of recommending a show to somebody, especially maybe somebody who's newer to anime, right? I think every time I'm watching, like, a TikTok or something, and people are saying, hey, what would you recommend to, first timers? And it's always like Death Note or Gundam or, these shonen anime, Attack on Titan, or maybe My Hero Academia or Naruto or One Piece. You hear these same things all the time, but the deeper complexity of anime is there's something here for everybody, whether you're into, and it's really whatever type of media that they, that a person really enjoys or likes. And maybe I'm not gonna say even media. I'm gonna say just entertainment, because it could be that they're readers, right? They maybe enjoy a certain genre of book, right? Like whether it's science or drama or romance or fantasy or magic or time period stuff, right? Like or it's superheroes, whatever it is that somebody likes. Everybody likes something, right? Even if it's something like super niche and more relevant to the times, right? Like think about like someone's like, oh well, I'm really into cosplay. Well, there's something there for you now, right? Like you think of like these other shows like My Dress Up Darling, right? Like maybe they're into these Japanese dolls. My Dress Up Darling, you got this over here, right? Maybe you're into the complexities of being a writer, right? You have Nozaki-kun, that's all about a guy drawing shonen, or not shonen, but like drawing like romance manga, right? Or maybe you're into acting and you have other anime that they go over this industry on an anime level. And or maybe you're into, there's like the go-go dolls or whatever it is, of like maybe you're into K-pop or J-pop. You know what I mean? There's something here in this genre for everybody, and My Happy Marriage embodies that time period, that Edo time period anime, that Edo time period show. I'm sorry, and they perfectly capture the time period of the 1930s, 1920s, 1930s time period in Japan. And they perfectly capture the transition from old Japan into modern Japan, right? Because being very what do you call it? Westernly influenced, because Japan at a certain point, same thing with China and Korea, were very, very influenced by Western culture, and a lot of it has to do with World War I and the broadened scope of America into greater lands, and basically the United States was such a, I don't know if monarch's the word, but such a gigantic, just monolith powerhouse that America has and will continue to influence the world. And you get to see this really cool time period of Japan where it was transitioning from samurais into office workers, and all these things, right? Like it's just so cool to witness. And the cool thing about Japan, even to this day, that you gotta love about their culture is, they embrace their history, as opposed to America. We have like a few hundred years of history, when 300 years of history, or I guess 17, 18, 19, like 250-ish years of history, whatever. And we don't have that same culture pulse that Japan or China that they have, where it's just is deeper, and you get to see how they keep those traditions through everything. Now that leads me into the specific episode where you had Miyo awakening her powers and finally realizing her love for Kudo, and knowing nothing's gonna stop her. We find out this episode that the Emperor is the one commanding the 𝐒𝐮𝐲𝐽 to basically, like, you can't let bird out the cage kind of thing. And they're trying to comply. And we learn this episode that grandfather deeply, deeply loved his daughter, which is amazing to see. And I think every father, especially every father who is father of a daughter, knows that, like, your love it runs so deep, and it's great to see that here come to fruition, that you had this her grandfather who just loved her mom, who loved Sumi so much. And Sumi had that same love for her father and for her family. She didn't want to see her family die, so she made a decision. And unfortunately, through her decision, it caused her and her father's relationship to kind of dwindle out because they butted heads. And she went against him, and it was a pride thing, and he's forever, regretful of that, and he's not trying to redo that with his granddaughter now. And yeah, I mean, this show it was a beautiful episode, and obviously Kudo got hurt, and she went and she ran to him, and I hope that at the end of the day they're gonna have to take on the Emperor. And I think if Grandpa's on board, I think if Kudo is obviously on board, I think this is something they're going to have to fight the fight here. The one variable is fluffy hair blonde guy who wants he's trying to find a place for himself to be useful, and that's by Miyo's side. And this has just been a long yearning thing, and the show does a really good job of diving deep into his psyche as well, as far as his need to be utilized. And there are people like that in the world. And again, I'm way out of time and way over time here because I know I went on like 9 tangents, so apologize for that. But like this show is just so good. And going back like 5 minutes, this is a recommendation as somebody who's like, yo, I love drama, I love romance, I love time period shows. Like this is an easy recommendation for somebody like that who maybe have never watched an anime before. I think this would get them hooked on anime. Anyways, those are all of my thoughts, and there's a lot of them, so apologize for going off 9 ways to Sunday. Thank you guys for being here. I'm gonna see you guys in the next episode. Peace.